طيب بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أهلا وسهلا ومرحبا بكم جميعا. Welcome everyone to today's class. Today we are going to have a review session inshallah ta'ala. It's all about consolidating what we've learned and putting everything together inshallah. The benefit of this review session really is the fact that like I've said many times before, this book, Al-Arabiyyatu Bayna Yadayk, as much as I love it, when it comes to grammar, it's what I call a little bit disjointed. It's a little bit disjointed. In other words, the grammar concepts, first, it doesn't really touch on grammar theoretically anyway. It just wants you to memorize or remember the different templates. And also, these templates or these dialogues, they gradually introduce grammar in a very subtle way, okay? Which then, when I'm teaching, I extract and I explain. But the way they're being introduced is not really that structured. It's just all over the place, especially if you compare it to the Medina books. The Medina books, Allahumma barik, it's an absolute masterpiece when it comes to introducing grammar concepts in a subtle way, in an organized way. Okay, it's very thought through. But then again, you know, it makes sense why the Medina books are like that and Arabiyyatu Bayna Yadayk books are not like that. Because the two books, like we said many times before, they're different. They have different objectives, different goals, and they achieve different things. Medina book focuses more on the grammar. It's more about receptive skills, more about your understanding of the language. Whereas the Bayna Yadayk book, it also has the expressive skills or the productive skills, which is you speaking, you writing, you using the language in different situations, and it doesn't focus that much on grammar. So that's why it makes sense. That's why it makes sense. Why the Medina books is so much more robust and structured when it comes to grammar. Now what I'm trying to do here is that I prefer to teach Bayna Yadayk because it's more of a complete program and there's much more exercises and things to keep you busy and keep you immersed in the language. But at the same time, I also try to fill in the gaps. I'm trying to, if you like, plaster and fill in the gaps and at least make the grammar, you know, give it a little bit of love. So alhamdulillah, we've done that over the course of the past 4 weeks. Alhamdulillah, we have learned many different grammar concepts, many different things, and I hope you've benefited. But alhamdulillah, the benefit of this revision session is that we bring it all together in one place, okay? And then I can share the notes with you and you can revise from one resource, inshallah, as opposed to all the different concepts that were introduced over the course of the past 4 weeks. So these sessions, which are 2 sessions in total, today inshallah ta'ala and Monday, 2 revision sessions. Today's one's about grammar and Monday's one's going to be about vocabulary. And there's more to vocab than you think. A lot of you think that vocabulary is all about memorizing a word and its meaning. La. Especially when it comes to Arabic, there's so much more to vocabulary. And vocabulary in the Arabic language is very systematic. And it's a system, it's a code, it's beautiful, right? So there's more to vocabulary than you think. But let's start with grammar, inshallah. Okay? So these are the grammar notes. I'm going to present them and explain them. Then we'll do some practice. And inshallah ta'ala, you're going to be doing the quarterly test. Not after today's lecture, actually. That quarterly test is going to be here, inshallah, after we do both revision sessions, okay? Type. So, grammar. Bismillah. Type. When it comes to grammar, like I've said before, when it comes to grammar, there are 2 layers. Barakallah feekum. What are these 2 layers? Who can tell us? Let's go on to WooClap actually. This is lecture, let's just call this revision lecture 1. Level 1, cohort 3. That's the link. So the question here is, what are the 2 layers to Arabic grammar? And today's lesson involves a lot of asking questions, because we're revising. It's not a lecture, blah, 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 blah. I've done enough of that for the past 4 weeks. Now it's all about allowing you to remember what we took and giving it a bit of structure and putting it in order, okay? That's the purpose of today's lesson. So prepare yourself. Prepare for answering a lot of questions, inshallah, and being really engaged, okay? So what are the 2 layers to Arabic grammar? Who remembers? Noun and adjectives. No. 1 second, please. Shahid Haddad is calling me. 1 second, please. حياكم الله. السلام عليكم. طيب. Alright, someone said صرف النحو. I'm talking about نحو. صح? Correct? If we say grammar in English, it involves morphology and syntax and the whole lot. But in Arabic, we make them separate. We say صرف النحو, 2 different sciences. I'm not talking about صرف, but that's a very good attempt on your part. I'm talking about نحو. نحو is of 2 layers. Okay? Again, I'm sure I've mentioned it before, but nevertheless, this means that I should mention it again. I should better mention it again. The 2 layers, and it's actually right in front of you here, if you manage to peek. These are the 2 layers of Arabic grammar. Okay? Well, I don't really call them 3 parts of Arabic speech or Arabic sentences, but this is the word. الكلمة. أحكام الكلمة. The grammar rules that relate to words. Okay? When it comes to grammar rules that relate to words, then there are 3 categories. Okay? So if you want, we can say Arabic words. Okay? Under which this would come. This one. Okay? And then we have Arabic sentences. Right? So that's what we say are the 2 layers of Arabic grammar. We have the word itself, like we said, by itself, before it becomes part of a sentence, there are things that relate to it. There are rules that relate to the word itself. Then, when that word becomes part of a sentence, then it opens up a whole new set of rules. In other words, what is the role that word plays within the sentence? واضح؟ طيب. So when it comes to Arabic words, then we said they are categorized into 3 in total. Okay? Which I could ask, but there's no need to ask because I'm sure all of you know it. 3 categories being اسم وفعل وحرف, or الأسماء والأفعال والحروف. Nouns, verbs, and particles. Okay? These are the 3 parts of Arabic speech. And Arabic consists of these words which together make sentences. Okay, so we put these together, we end up with a sentence. Okay, these are the 3 broad categories. Okay, and each category has its unique attributes and features. That's the most important thing. In other words, if something is a noun, it has certain attributes and features that verbs don't have. Okay, these are the 3 features. I'm not going to talk in detail again about what each one is. We have here all of their definitions. I'll give them to you as part of the notes. Okay, you can revise this inshallah. A noun is a word that names or refers to a person. This has already been explained. Okay, so I'm going to share this with you as notes. Okay, likewise when it comes to the definition of verbs, it's pretty clear. Conveys an action which happened in the past, is happening now, will happen in the future. Again, I'll share that with you as it is. Okay, طيب. A few notes here, make sure you pay attention to this. A verb always has at least one noun associated with it. In other words, you can have a sentence that is verbless, but you can't have a sentence that is without a noun, because a verb cannot exist without a noun, because a verb has to have a doer. Someone has to have done that action. Okay? طيب. ممتاز. This is clear, right? I'm not going to spend time explaining this again. It's clear. That when it comes to nouns, barakallahu feekum, every noun has certain grammatical attributes. Do you remember what they are? Who remembers what they are? It's one of the most important things, because when you know what the noun's attributes are, then what are طيب ايش رايكم؟ Allah. Person, gender, and number. Okay, you're missing one. You're missing one. You got 3. Ahsant. What's the 4th one? Gender, status, number, and definiteness. Actually, person, this is incorrect actually. Person, this is an attribute of pronouns, which is a subset of nouns, right? But not all nouns have person. Barakallah fiqh. If I say, for example, Ahmed, or Khalid, or Sayyara, doesn't have person, it doesn't denote any person, right? Definiteness, gender, number, and i'rab. Now those are the 4. Definiteness, either is definite or indefinite. Gender, either is masculine or feminine. Number is either singular, dual, or plural. And i'rab is either marfu', mansoob, or majroor. واضح, which is case. نعم أحسن. But person is wrong. Okay? Status, I don't know what you mean by status. What does status mean? Barakallahu feek. You mean i'rab, I think. We call it i'rab. If you want the English word, it's declension. Okay? طيب, ممتاز. Okay, so those are the grammatical attributes. So definiteness, so it can either be معرفة or نكرة. Gender, مذكر or مؤنث. Number, مفرد, مثنى, or جمع, We'll talk about jama' more, the types of jama'. We haven't covered that. We'll talk about it another time, inshallah. Okay? طيب. Then we have i'rab, مرفوع, منصوب, or majrur. And I already explained what the point is of i'rab. It allows us to tell who, for example, did the verb and who the object is. Okay, that's the importance of i'rab. That's one example of the importance of i'rab. طيب. Then we have types of nouns, and this is something that we might not have mentioned in you might not have mentioned in one go. All these things I'm about to mention we've done before, but like I said, it was very disjointed. So now we're going to bring them all together. What are the different types of nouns? Might as well ask you, inshallah, before I give you the answer. So what are the different types of nouns? What are different types of nouns that we have come across so far? Personal pronouns, demonstrative pronouns. Okay, hasn't. Personal pronouns, demonstrative pronouns. طيب, what else? We mentioned that already. Personal pronouns and demonstrative pronouns. Personal pronouns such as أنا, أنت, هو, هي. Demonstrative pronouns like هذا, هذه. Okay, what else? Types of nouns. Types of nouns. When we say types of nouns, we mean grammatically speaking, they are nouns that have different grammatical concepts related to them. We don't mean types of nouns as in, this is a fruit and that's a vegetable. We don't mean that. Interrogative, نعم, أحسنت. Interrogative nouns, نعم. بارك الله فيك. What else? Pronouns, personal, demonstrative, verbal noun. Did we come across verbal noun? If we have, then yes. Did I even talk about that? Connected and disconnected nouns, mudaf. These are not different types of nouns. That's just a grammatical construct. But they could be any noun. Okay? They're not different types of nouns. It's just that we can take two nouns and make a mudaf ilayh construct out of it. So we can take a normal noun, a concrete noun, and a mudaf ilay, and then we can have what? Kitabuhu, abi, ummi. So mudaf ilay is not a type of noun. That has more to do with Arabic sentences or phrases. Okay, طيب. Let me help you out then, barakallah fikum. We have pronouns, we have interrogative words or question words, or call them what you like, and we have numbers. Now when it comes to pronouns, then we have personal pronouns and demonstrative pronouns. Okay, now in English they're both called pronouns. Okay, in Arabic they got actually separate names. One's called damir, one's called ismul ishara. But why are they both pronouns? They're both pronouns because they are both words that take the place of another noun. They're both words that take the place of another noun. That's why demonstrative pronouns, you can have hada, you can have hadihi, you can have dhalika, you can have tilka, and it kind of like goes with the gender, it agrees with the gender and the number and the likes. So that's why it's called demonstrative pronouns. It can take the place of another noun. And also, just like any other pronoun, demonstrative pronouns, they refer to the second person. Okay, second person. Okay. Type. I mean, not second person, third person actually. They relate to the third person, not second person. Third person. You're talking about someone. Okay? So it's always third person. You're talking to someone about something. Okay? That thing you're talking about or that person you're talking about is the third person. Type. So these are pronouns. Or if you want, we can just regard them as two separate categories based on the fact that in Arabic they are separate. Okay? واضح? Now when it comes to personal pronouns, barakallahu fikum, it has what we call person. It has an attribute called person. Okay? And this person could be first, second, or third, depending on what the person you're talking to or you are talking about. Okay? Either you're talking about yourself, or you're talking to someone, or you're talking about someone. So that's a very important thing to remember when it comes to personal pronouns. Okay? Also, personal pronouns can be isolated and attached. They can be munfasil or muttasil. Also a very important thing to remember. This gives you different forms. So when it's isolated, it's ana. When it's muttasil, it's ya, such as kitabi or ismi. When it's isolated, it's anta. But when it's joined to a word, it becomes ka. Kitabuka. And so on and so forth. So keep that in mind. So a very important thing to remember. Okay? Then we have the question words, or the interrogative words we use to ask questions. This is the list of the interrogative words we've done so far. Okay? Take note of them. Okay? They'll be part in the notes as well. This is the list. Okay? We've done ma, what, such as masmuka. We've done hal for open-ended questions. Hal anta misri. Sorry, for closed-ended questions. Answer is going to be yes or no. Aina, to ask about something or someone's whereabouts. How much, to ask about quantity. Ayya. Ayya is to give limited options. Okay? Okay. Ayya kitabin qara'ta. Okay, which book did you read? Yes? So you can only mention. So he kind of like sends you in a direction to specify what it is that you've read. Okay? من or أي دور في أي دور الشقة. Okay? من is the same as ما, but the difference is that ma is for objects, men is for humans. Okay? That's the difference. Man is used for people and ma is used for animals or things. Then we have meta, to ask about a time. So this place, and that's time. And then we have mada. We said the difference between ma and mada is what? That ma comes before nouns, and mada, not men. Mada comes before verbs. That was the difference between mada and ma. Okay? واضح? So those were the question words that we've done. I should have asked, shouldn't I? Allah musta'an. I should have asked on WooClap, what are the interrogative words we've done so far? لا بأس. No problem, inshallah. We are going to do something soon on WooClap, inshallah, regarding that. Don't worry. So, a few notes. They are all nouns apart from a or hal. They are the only particles. Everything else, they're all nouns. And they always occur at the beginning of a sentence. Okay? Don't say هذا من. من هذا, you should say. Okay? So they should always come at the beginning. Okay? They should always come at the beginning of the sentence. واضح? طيب, let's ignore that. طيب, then we have numbers. Numbers. We have cardinal numbers and ordinal numbers. What's the difference? So what are cardinal numbers? What are ordinal numbers? And I know that the name kind of puts you off because it's such a difficult sounding word, but nevertheless it's actually pretty easy. What are cardinal numbers, or what is the difference? What are the differences? Let's say what are it. What are the differences between cardinal and ordinal numbers? So that's عدد كمي and عدد ترتيبي. The English, the Arabic words, they give away the whole concept. English doesn't. So the Arabic, mashallah, the Arabic definitions, the Arabic words we use, the definition is actually within the name. But when it comes to English, it just sounds too difficult. Okay, unstructured count, structured count, you made it even more difficult. Now in English, please. Put it in a way that the other students can understand. نعم أحسنت. بارك الله فيك. Cardinal is how many. We're talking quantity. Whereas ordinal deals with order, sequence. First, second, third, fourth, fifth. Okay? That's the main difference. Okay, how about some of the grammatical differences then? How about some of the grammatical differences? Plus, I want you to give me an example. They say one of the best ways to explain something to someone is by giving an example. It's the best way to define something. As a matter of fact, sometimes you can define something just by giving an example. So please give an example. Cardinal numbers denotes number of the object, whereas ordinal denotes the position. Now, sequence. Ahsant. Okay. How about you give me an example, please? That would truly prove that you understand. Example of a cardinal number and an ordinal number. Now, if you give it in English, acceptable. You give it to me in Arabic, mashallah alaik. أيوة. I have 5 books. I have the 5th book. عندي 5 كتاب. أحسنت. نعم. So it's a major difference between عندي 5 كتب, not كتاب, and عندي الكتاب الخامس. A major difference. One, you actually have 5 books. One is that you actually have the 5th book. So here you only have 1 book, but it's the 5th one in the series. Here you have 5 books, which necessarily are not even the first series. It could be the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, and the 8th. Okay? I don't know which 5 books you have. If you say عندي 5 كتب من العربية بين يديك. Let's say, for example, I'll give you an example. Let's say we're on level 3 of بين يديك books. Level 3. Yes? And a student says to me عندي 3 كتب, and the other one says عندي الكتاب الثالث. Which one of these two students for sure don't need to buy the book if they're on level 3, the 3rd book? Which of these 2 students definitely doesn't need to buy the book because he already has the book we're going to do? We're on level 3. Okay? The one that said عندي 3 كتب, or the one that said عندي الكتاب الثالث? Definitely, I'm for sure that the second student has the book because he has the 3rd book. Oh, even though he only has 1 book, he doesn't need to buy another book. Whereas the other guy who said he's got 3 books, it could be he's got level 1 and 2 and level 4, or level 5, 6, 7, and 8. You know, so still, you know, I don't know which level he has. So I have to ask him. عندي 3 كتب, which books? الأول والثاني والثالث. إذا قال نعم قل له طيب. If he says to me no, I say to him go and buy the 3rd book. طيب أحسنتم. Or for example, someone saying I'm the 3rd child. It's very different from I have 3 children. Okay? Major difference. Okay? You're the 3rd child. You're just one person. But you're the 3rd child in line. As opposed to I'm the 3rd person. I've got 3 children, sorry. Okay? When you say I've got 3 children, you're not even the child. You have 3 children. It's a completely different sentence. طيب. And these are some of the sample sentences. الساعة الآن 5:30 is 5:30. أسكن في الدور الثالث. I live in the 3rd floor. These are what? Ordinal numbers. They denote order. So when it comes to hours of the day, it's always ordinal. The 5th hour. الساعة الخامسة. 5th hour. Not 5 hours, it's the 5th hour. It's 1 hour. Which hour though? The 5th hour. So if I say, for example, قرأت الكتاب في الساعة الخامسة. I read the book at 5 o'clock. That doesn't mean I've been reading the book for 5 hours. لا, at 5 o'clock or in the 5th hour, you know, between 5 and 6, that's when I read the book for just 1 hour. Okay? That's different from قرأت الكتاب 5 ساعات. I read the book for 5 hours. That's a different sentence altogether. واضح؟ Then we have عندي 5 كتب وعمري 7. طيب ممتاز. Here we have a few features that are unique to nouns from the features that we've done. These features, they're very important and they are unique to nouns. They don't apply to verbs, they don't apply to huruf. One of them is person, like we said, because it's a feature of pronouns, which are nouns. First, second, third person. Second feature is al-idafa. Al-idafa, that's a feature unique to nouns, which, like we said, is mudaf ilayh. Okay? Which is when you construct two words together, yes, to establish some sort of association between the two. So you can take, for example, two nouns, normal nouns, and establish the connection, like Rasulullah, Allah's messenger. Okay, now you've established a connection between the Rasul and Allah. So this Rasul is different from any other Rasul. Okay, so establishing that connection between Allah shows you the sharaf and the status of this Rasul, as opposed to Rasulu Rasulillah. Okay, the Prophet's messengers, Allah's messenger, who's a companion, still very great and has a high status, but not the same as the status of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay. طيب. Then we have ismu mudmar. You can also have mudaf ilayh by taking a noun and using as a mudaf ilayh a dhamir or a personal pronoun, such as ibnuhu, his son, ibnuhu, his son, al-Qasim. Okay, and that obviously you can put any of the 12 pronouns after any noun to have the mudaf ilayh. So ismi, ismuka, ismuki, ismuhu, ismuha, ismuhum, ismuhunna, ismukum, and all 12 pronouns. واضح? All 12 pronouns you can join it to a noun. طيب. Then we also have what we call the ya of association. Not sure if we covered this, but this is basically when you say أنا تركي or أنا سوري or أنا مصري. Okay, that's what we call the ya of association. It's always mudaf ilayh. Okay, so we have, for example, Misr is the country. Okay, Misr is the country. But someone, if you want to associate them with Misr and say that they're Egyptian, then in order to do that, you can't say Misruhu or something like that. صح? You want to associate him with Misr, then you add a ya at the end. This is what we call ya nisba, the ya of association. And now it becomes what? Mudaf ilayh. Okay, Egyptian. That's how it translates. Misri. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Okay, anything the Arabic language, if you add a ya of association to it, you know, then it takes on that kind of meaning. Okay, so for example, to give you an example that you might be more familiar with, you have the Salaf. صح? You have the Salaf. Now the Salaf are the first 3 generations. The companions and the tabi'un, atba'u tabi'un, who the Prophet Muhammad said are the best of generations. Now you want to ascribe yourself to those 3 generations. Ascribe yourself for the reason that they are the most guided, and you want to express that you follow their way. You want to ascribe yourself to them. What do you say? Ana, what do you say? Ana salafuhu? La. Ana salafi. Salafi. This is what? The ya of association. واضح? Now you're associating yourself with the Salaf. Same thing applies to the Sunnah. Ana, they have Sunnah. Okay? You get rid of the ta at the end and it becomes ana sunni. Ana sunni. You're someone who associates himself to the sunnah. Okay? And so on and so forth. So you'll come across this a lot. The ya of association, very often used. Okay? It's called the ya of to associate yourself to something or someone. واضح? I remember there's one famous caller, a misguided caller, who out of his ignorance of the Arabic language, he was trying to, if you like, belittle those who call themselves Salafi, and he's like, how can you say Ana Salafi? What do you mean Ana Salafi? Salafi يعني they're my Salaf? يعني belongs to me? Or he turned the whole thing into a, like Salafi, like they're my Salaf, like in that sense, like they belong to me. La. This is not the ya of al-mutakallim. The ya of mutakallim, such as ismi, abi, that is a different ya altogether. Now, how do you know the difference? Who can tell me? How do you know the difference between the ya al-mutakallim and the ya of association? How can you tell the difference? Okay? How can you tell the difference between the ya of association and the ya, what we call ya al-mutakallim? I'll explain to you what that means in a moment. It means first person, the ya of the first person. In other words, when you say something belongs to you, or this is mine, or my book, or my name, or my father, how do you tell the difference between the two? So when I'm saying Salafi, I don't mean they're just my Salaf and not yours. It means I'm ascribing myself to him. When I say Sunni, it doesn't mean it's my Sunnah and not your Sunnah. La. The ya of association has a shadda. Naam. Ahsant. La, if you want something simple, easy, that you can remember, you would have noticed that everyone has a shadda. The ya of association has a shadda. Salafi. Not Salafi. Salafi with a shadda. Misri. Misriyah. Okay? Sunniyah. واضح? And also the ya of association after it, you have the ta marbuta to show you if it's masculine or feminine. Salafi, salafiyah. Sunni, sunniyah. Sunni is masculine, sunniyah feminine. But you don't have that with ya al-mutakallim. You don't say ismiyah. That doesn't work. Ismi, the ya of mutakallim, is gender neutral, belongs to both, masculine and feminine. You don't add a ta marbuta after it. واضح? That's another way as well. طيب, that's as it relates to nouns. Now let's go on to verbs. When it comes to verbs, obviously we have verb types. Remember what they are? Yalla, I'm sure you know what they are. Past tense, present tense, or what we call madi, mudari, and imperative, or the command tense. I did say many times that present tense here is not 100% accurate. Okay? Mudari doesn't mean present, but nevertheless, for the sake of simplicity and at this stage, we'll just stick with present tense. Okay? واضح? So, فعل ماضي, فعل مضارع, and فعل أمر. Now, how about the future tense? Why is it not added to the verb types? It's a good question, right? So we have past tense, so-called present tense. Then one might ask himself, what about the future tense? Isn't that a verb type? What would the answer be to that? Alhamdulillah. add sa and sofa to present tense, just manipulate present tense to get future. Now, so the mudari', you can just add sa or sofa to it to make it future tense. That's one answer. Future tense is conjugated form of the present tense. Naam, correct. Which brings us to the real answer, which is that these verb types are not based on tense. We didn't say verb tenses, which would be called زمن الفعل. لا, هذه أنواع الفعل. Okay, so even though that's why I clearly mentioned that present tense here is kind of mistranslation, because it's going to cause that problem. It's going to give the problem. It's going to give you the problem whereby now you kind of like get into a sort of fill the gap mode, right? You get into the sequence mode thinking there's past, present, and future. La. That's not the way it is. These are verb types. And the reason why in Arabic these are considered different types of verbs is because their conjugation is different. What do I mean by conjugation? For example, when it comes to the damir, the pronouns that we add to verbs, it's going to look different for madi and it's going to look different for amr. It's going to look different. They're different pronouns that we use for both. Okay, the way we build these verbs, yes, to show who's done the verb, yes, it's completely different. That's why they're different types of verbs. And generally speaking, we take the present tense from the past tense. So first we have the past tense, then we conjugate it and play around with it to make the present tense, and then we take the present tense and make from it the fi'l amr. واضح? That's how it goes. Okay, so that's why they're different verb types. واضح? That's why they have different verb types. If you want, you can see them as different steps in a process, right? For example, you know the butterfly goes through different stages, right? First you have the larva, and then you have the cocoon, and then it comes out as a butterfly. Yeah, you can think of it that way. Different stages. You have the madi, and then it turns into a mudari, and then it turns into an amr. Okay, so you need to look at it that way. Okay, not necessarily as related to tense. And the reason I mentioned this because I don't want you to think that fi'l mudari' only means present tense. لا, fi'l mudari' could be future tense as well, no problem. As a matter of fact, there are ways to even make fi'l mudari' past tense. You know, but that's a topic for another day. طيب, because it's grammatically no different from mudari', that's why the future tense is not a verb type. Confession, mudari' doesn't mean present tense. So how do we know the difference between present tense and future tense verbs? Putting a verb and then having a prefix of seen or sofa would make it a future tense. طيب. That's as it relates to verbs. واضح? طيب. Then we have particles. Yalla, this I'm going to ask you actually. So I'm going to say list all of the حروف الجر that you know. Because from the particles we've done so far are حروف الجر. They're the main ones we've done so far. The prepositions. So list all of the... let me just copy that. It's probably faster. You know. Yalla. يهديكم الله يصلح بالكم. طيب. على في بي إلى, يعني على في بي and إلى. Okay. إلى, okay. في, we got that. We got في. We got على. بي. إلى. Okay. من. Okay. أحسنت. What else? إلى, على, من, في, لي. لي as well for and be. أحسنت. بارك الله فيكم. I think that's what we've done so far. We've done عن. I don't think we've done عن. These are the 5 we've done so far. Min, ila, fi, bi, li, and ala as well actually. Ala, which would translate to upon, but like I said, these meanings that we're putting here, this is the most frequent meaning, but not the only meaning. So ala could have a different meaning as well. It could mean something else. Min could mean it doesn't have to mean from. Ila doesn't have to mean to. Fi doesn't have to mean in. Bi doesn't have to mean with or by. Li doesn't have to mean for. But that's the most frequent, the most common meaning. But having said that, all of these prepositions, all of these huruf can take on whatever meaning makes sense within the context. That's why we said about particles that they are words who do not have a meaning in and of themselves. They take on a meaning depending on the context. طيب. Barakallah fikum. Then we have Arabic sentences. Hayakumullah. Okay, so those were Arabic words. When it comes to Arabic words, 3 categories of speech. Nouns. Nouns are different types. These are the types we've done so far. They're not all the types of nouns. There's a whole other list of types. But this is what we've done so far. The unique features we talked about. There are 3 types of verbs. And we talked about the main particles we've done so far, which are prepositions. We've also done a few other particles as well, such as la, the la of negation, and la of, if you like, of prohibition. Sah? You've done that as well. Okay? Al-i'rab. When it comes to Arabic sentences, we talked about the i'rab in detail. We talked about how i'rab helps us to see what? Or to find out who did the verb, what the object is. It tells us what the function of each word is within a sentence. So these words that we talked about, they have certain attributes, yes, but when they become part of a sentence, they play a certain role. That role is expressed by i'rab, is expressed by the last haraka, or by the haraka at the end, on the last letter. Okay, and we talked about the benefits of i'rab. It allows us to know the difference between ضرب خالد عمرا and ضرب عمرا خالد. Okay, Khalid hit Amr or Amr hit Khalid. The only way we would know the difference by way of i'rab. Now, this is the most important thing, if anything. When it comes to i'rab, barakallah fikum, there's 2 things about i'rab. 2 things about i'rab. This is what basically defines i'rab. 2 things. First one's called government. Yeah. Sorry, that's what they call it in English. In Arabic it's called awamil, which I would have probably translated to as factors, right? But in English grammar books they call it government, which kind of like makes sense when I explain to you in a moment. And we have something called mutabaqa, agreement. I'rab is all about these 2 things. Government, as in there are certain words that govern others. Govern as in these words make another word have a certain haraka. They are the ones that caused that. They are the ones that affected that word. Okay, so what makes... So it's not always words. Sometimes it's not a word. Sometimes the amil can be something that is not actually a word. It could just be something that is abstract, right? Such as mubtada, for example. Why is mubtada marfu'? Because it's mubtada, it's ibtida, because of the fact that it's a subject, that makes it marfu', right? Why is a fa'il, the person who does the action, why is it marfu'? Because of the fact that he's the doer, or he's the subject. These are awamil that are not lafzi. They're awamil that don't return back to a specific word. It's just that's their function within the sentence. But there are certain words sometimes that affect other words, such as, for example, we have the prepositions, haruf al-jar. Okay, these words, they are awamil. Okay, in other words, whatever word comes after it, they make it have a kasrah. That's what they do. That's what they do. That's their job. Okay, min. Whatever word comes after it, it's gonna be majroor. So, for example, you would say, Muhammadun min al-Saudiyyati, min al-Somali. E at the end, you see? Okay? It's majroor. Or, for example, ila. أذهب إلى المسجد. Ustad, why does masjid have a kasra? Because of إلى. إلى did that. Okay. محمد في المدرسة. Ustad, why does madrasah have a kasra? في did that. في made it have a kasra. So that's what we call by government. So these words, the effect they have on other words, this is a major part in i'rab. Or the government, the amil could be, like we said, something's not actually a word, but it is the function or the place of that word within the sentence, such as the fact that it is the mubtada, the fact that it is the fa'il, the fact that it is an object. So for example, when you have a verb and the object becomes maf'ulun bihi, it has a fatha, such as daraba Khalidun Muhammadan, and you ask me, Ustad, why is Muhammadan, why does it have two fathas? I say to you the verb done that. Daraba, that verb, yes, daraba, the verb, it has a subject, a fa'il, and it has an object, a maf'ulun bihi. That verb is the amil. That verb is what made it have a fatha. Okay? واضح? So i'rab is all about that. It's all about government. How do these words affect each other? And it's also about agreement. What do you mean by agreement? Sometimes you have a word, right? It is not the maf'ulun bihi, but it follows on from a maf'ulun bihi. So it agrees. So adjectives, for example, adjectives, they always agree with the noun that they're describing or the noun they're modifying, they call it. Always agrees with it. It agrees with it in everything, like we said. If it's marfu', it's marfu'. Mansub, mansub. If it's definite, it's definite. If it's masculine, it's masculine. If it's feminine, it's feminine. If it's plural, it's plural. If it's singular, it's singular. This we call agreement. That's what gives a sentence its structure, and that's what allows you to know which word belongs to which word. Because of the fact that Arabic, like we said, is a free word order system. The words can be anywhere. Yes? These two things give us the clues as to, hey, which word is modifying which word? Which one is the fa'il? Which is maf'ulun bihi? These things allow us to have that flexibility. If it wasn't for these two things, there would be no i'rab. I'rab is all about these two things. It's all about these two things. Awamil and mutabaqa. I'm going to show you something interesting. There's a website called Corpus.com. Okay? And, okay. Let me type in Google. No. Quran Corpus. Can you search on Google, please? Yeah, corpus.quran.com. This website, very interesting website. It's an annotated linguistic resource which shows the Arabic grammar, syntax, and morphology for each word in the Holy Quran. Okay, it's a very, very interesting website. And the Quranic Arabic course I was working on, this was one of my main resources. Now, if you go to the syntactic, they call it tree bank. They have this thing called dependency graphs. Okay, and it's got some explanations on the i'rab and stuff as well. But these graphs, they show you the dependency, okay, from word to word in the Quran. So let's go to a longer verse actually. This verse is quite short. Let's just Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, no problem, it's good. So here it shows you in a very interesting color-coded way. It shows you the different relationships between the different words. So we have here, there's a verb here. You see this asterisk? It tells you there's a verb here that belongs here. Aqra'u, I read, I sleep, whatever the action you're doing. It's kind of like implicit here. Okay? So this sentence, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, by itself is not a complete sentence. What makes it complete is the action you're about to do, which is something that's implicit, right? So here we have aqra'u, aktubu, okay, udarrisu, and then Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So it shows you the B. This is the P for preposition, majroor. And in terms of dependency, look at the dependency. This noun is dependent on this one. As in, this B governs the ismi. So why is it ismi? Why does it have a kasra? Because of the preposition. It's majroor, and it shows you here majroor. Okay? Okay. Bismillahi. Bismillahi. Why is Allahi here with a kasra? Why? Why? Bismillahi. Okay? Where did this kasra come from? Okay, so this is a P and proper noun. Yes, and this is a noun. Okay? But the relationship here is that is mudaf ilayh. It's mudaf ilayh. You see the connection? Mudaf ilayh. This is associated with Bismillah, yani in the name of Allah. And it gives you the English here as well. Okay? Bismillahi. Then we have Ar-Rahmani. Ar-Rahmani is a sifa, an adjective for Allah. Okay? That's why it's got kasra too. Okay? And then Ar-Rahimi. Ar-Rahim is an adjective. Now, it's not an adjective for Ar-Rahmani. It's an adjective for Allah again as well. Okay, so these are two adjectives or two sifat of Allah. Ar-Rahmani, Ar-Rahimi. واضح? This is what we mean by government and agreement. Okay, so agreement as in this is an adjective, it agrees with Allah in a sense that it's got kasra and kasra. Why does Ar-Rahmani have kasra? Because Allah has kasra. This is an adjective of Allah. Okay, why is this kasra? Because government. Because the fact is mudaf ilayh. So it should have a kasra. Why does it have a kasra? Because ba came before it. Okay, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. واضح? What do you guys think? Very interesting website, Allahum barik. I can't obviously recommend everything on the website, يعني. I'm just talking about the concept, and يعني, I don't really know personally people who did this. Some people at Leeds University did it, but I can't vouch for their manhaj or the likes. But the concept is quite, the way they've implemented is very interesting, يعني. طيب. Do you guys get that? I was way above you. Did I confuse you more? Today, mashallah, interaction is not that great. طيب. Okay. Yeah, it's a very interesting website in that regard, mashallah. It's got a lot of explanation as well on Quranic grammar as well. Okay. If it doesn't intimidate you, then you might be able to benefit from that. طيب. Let's go back. Sentence types. We talked about sentence types. We said there are two sentence types in the Arabic language, either nominal sentences or verbal sentences. Jumla ismiya and jumla fi'liya. Difference being that a nominal sentence is a sentence that starts with a noun, and a verbal sentence that starts with a verb. Now, what are the sentence elements? What does a sentence consist of? It consists of two things: sentence pillars and sentence extras. Okay, mukammilat al-jumlatain it's called. Okay. Now, what you need to focus on at this point in time really is what we call the sentence pillars. Okay? Now, what if they have misunderstanding of words like face of Allah to mean purpose? Yeah, so I'm not telling you to use it as a resource or to rely on it. The grammar side of things, even though it has a few mistakes here and there, that is something that's very, it's very objective. You can't really do much with that. It's very objective. It's maf'ulun bi, is maf'ulun bi. There's not much room for error, misguidance there. There's room for error, obviously. Human beings, anyone that a human being does is always subject to error, but there's not much room for misguidance. As far as if they talk about, as far as the translation is concerned, then I think they relied on Sahih International Translation, if I'm not mistaken. Okay? Which I have not revised from beginning till end. But you can also have access to the Muhammad Muhsin Khan translation. So I think you can choose which translation you want to see when you go to the English translation, right? There's different translations there. Obviously, this one being the most authentic. Definitely don't rely on this one, Arbery or the likes. Very misguided translations. Type. The Arbery guy was not even a Muslim. Allah musta'an. Then we have pillars. Pillars of a sentence. Now, again, it depends on the sentence type we're talking about. If it's nominal sentence, then we have two pillars, mubtada and khabar. And until you find the mubtada and khabar, that sentence is not complete. At least not complete in your head. Okay? Subject is the person or thing a sentence is about, and predicate is what is said about the subject. We explained this recently, so I'm not going to go again, talk about it. I'm not going to talk about finding the predicate. I've given you a quiz that you can practice, and we'll go over it in a moment as well to explain some of the questions. And then we have sentence extras. Okay? Now, the sentence extra that we have done so far is adjectives. Adjectives. And we talked about how to know the difference between if something is a khabar, which is a pillar, or an adjective. And we said that the adjective agrees with the subject in everything, whereas khabar doesn't agree with it in definiteness. And that's how you know the difference between the two. If you don't know what that means, go back to last lesson. Verbal sentences has three pillars. A verbal sentence has three pillars. You have the verb subject, and the verb's object. واضح? Okay? واضح? So that's really, really important. Okay? Then we have the prepositional phrases. That actually belongs here. For the most part. Okay? We have prepositional phrases, which basically is something like is basically a حرف جار مجرور. Okay? جار مجرور. And these prepositional phrases, I actually added here on the verbal sentences, but I'll explain that another time. But nevertheless, if I say, for example, محمد يصلي في المسجد. محمد يصلي في المسجد. Muhammad is praying in the masjid. محمد يصلي, Muhammad is praying is a complete sentence, right? Okay. في المسجد is extra. Okay, is a answer to the question, where is he praying? In the masjid. But if I just said محمد يصلي, that would be fine. The sentence is complete. So we have the fi'l and the fa'il, and يصلي doesn't need an object. So that's a complete sentence. Okay? So here the prepositional phrase في المسجد, that is extra. That is a sentence extra. Okay? That would be a sentence extra. But sometimes a prepositional phrase can be a pillar as well, just like the khabar we mentioned. The predicate sometimes could be a prepositional phrase. So it depends. It depends. Okay? That's why I can't really find a good place to put this, right? The prepositional phrases, it could be a pillar in a nominal sentence. It could be a pillar in a verbal sentence, and it could also be a sentence extra, depending. Okay? طيب, it could be all three. واضح? طيب, let's just suffice with that for now. Any questions? Is there a reliable tafsir which basically gives us grammatical analysis so that we don't have to rely on this website? No, not that I know of. But having said that, you don't want to do grammatical analysis in English. أصلا. واضح? That is just in my dictionary, that's just a complete oxymoron. Like Arabic grammatical analysis is something very technical, and not doing that in the Arabic language or trying to do grammatical analysis of an ayah using English terms or English language as a medium, it's not good. It's not good. It's a waste of time. And I won't say it's completely a waste of time, but it's not the way to approach it. The way to approach it is that either you learn Arabic in order just to comprehend, and you don't go into grammar too much detail, and you just understand the sentence and you immerse yourself in the language, and you'll end up understanding the sentence even if you don't know the grammar. And how many Arabs out there in the world, not just how many Arabs, all of the Arabs in the world that understand Fusha. They'll understand the Quran, but if you say to them فعل فاعل مفعول به, they'll run a mile. They'll be like, no, I don't want to hear that. It gives them anxiety. You know, just like the way that you will read books in the English language, but when I start saying something like accusative case and genitive case and whatever, you'll run a mile as well, right? You'll be like, what are you talking about? So same thing. Either you learn the language, you immerse yourself in the language, and you understand it for the sake of comprehension, for the sake of understanding Allah's words. That's fine, beautiful, good. Or you want to go deeper. You want to become a student of knowledge. You want to understand the Quran at a deeper level, a level that even some native Arabs haven't reached. You're not going to reach that through the English language. It's not going to happen. So, for me, it's crazy that they actually, I wouldn't say it's crazy, but they put so much effort into the website and stuff. For the Arabic side, it's very useful. As in, if you're going to look at this, the synthetic tree bank, whatever it's called, if you're going to look at that, and you're going to benefit from the Arabic over here, tawqid, mudaf ilayh, fa'al, maf'ulun bihi, with these arrows, that's very useful. And like I said, that's very objective. You don't need to worry about misguidance in that regard, okay? This is just very objective. Fa'al, maf'ulun bihi, it's alright, okay? But if you say that, hey, I want to know pronoun in English and noun and proper noun and the English terms, then that doesn't make sense. So it's really about you learning Arabic grammar in Arabic, which is not the stage we're at now. But for example, level 3, we actually do that. Level 3, even though you shouldn't. Many they don't like that. But we actually grammatically analyze each sentence in Arabic. We do that in level 3, okay? And inshallah you'll get there as well. So let's not run before we can walk. Yes, I just showed you this just to get across the concept of government and agreement, not for you to actually go to this website right now and start to doing grammatical analysis. You're not ready for that. But inshallah ta'ala you will be in the future. When you are ready to do that in the future, then forget this website. There are books written in Arabic that I can show you that do grammatical analysis. So I can show you, for example, I mean, it doesn't have those nice colors and arrows as like this website. But if you go to this website called Al-Bahith Al-Qur'ani, it's got a lot of beautiful resources here for the Quran. And you go to Ma'ajim. I mean, there are some very classical books for Arab. See these books? Where are they? موسوعات جمع أقوال. Some of these books here where he mentions لغة and balagha, such as, where is no, this is not here, it's here actually, علوم, under علوم, إعراب اللغة. These are books that are written specifically for the Arab of the Quran, but in the Arabic language. So let's say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. They're not in English, they're written in Arabic language. So if you know the Arabic grammar words, then you'll understand this. Like for example, الإعراب here it says بسم الله جار ومجرور متعلقان بمحذوف تقديره أبتدئ، فالجار والمجرور في محل نصب مفعول به مقدم أو ابتدائي. okay. الله لفظ الجلالة مضاف إليه. الرحمن الرحيم صفتان، صفة two صفات لله تعالى، وجملة البسمة الابتدائية. So here you have the actual grammatical analysis. الحمد مبتدأ، رب صفة لله أو بدل منه. Alright, مضاف إليه. As you can see, there's a grammatical analysis of the whole Quran in Arabic that is reliable to an extent. A lot of them written by some of the classical scholars from many, many years ago. Obviously, some of them are very, very advanced. You don't want to go anywhere close to it at this stage. Some are easier, okay? But yeah, you have these books, that are much more. This, for example, Al-Jadl fi Arab al-Quran, for example. But like I said, right now, you reading this looks, not just the Arabic difficult, even a native Arabic speaker. You grab one off the street, and you tell him to read this, he'll think it's Chinese or something. Like, what are you talking about? Because it's very technical, it's very detailed, it's grammar. If you're not in that field, then this is gonna look very, I dare you to ask an Arab down the road who hasn't really learned much grammar. Yes, I dare you to get them to read one of these pages and explain to you what it means. They'll be less the wiser than you. Barakallah feekum. If you want an Arabic tafsir that actually touches a bit on i'rab, then Fath al-Qadir by Shawkani does that a lot. Shaykh ibn Uthaymeen likewise, when he does his tafsir, he does i'rab of the verses. Okay, and they're both in print. But then, like I said to you again, is reading those tafsirs, you're gonna struggle to understand it. نعم شوكاني from Yemen. نعم. فهمت علي? So it's not yet, the time is not there yet, but inshallah once you get there, inshallah ta'ala, you'll benefit from it. Barakallah feekum. طيب inshallah we'll break up for the workshop in a moment. Let me just quickly show you. How did the quiz go, by the way? The grammar quiz. The one that was posted on the portal. Challenging, got confused on some questions. Okay, alhamdulillah. We like challenging stuff, don't we? Huh? Let's go through a few questions now and explain, inshallah. Okay. What made it really challenging is, to be honest, is the what made it challenging is the mudaf ilayh that I've added. I added the mudaf ilayh that really made it challenging. Okay, so here we have ala. Huh? What? I posted this? Oh no. I wasn't even meant to post this. علي يسكن في بيت. Okay. I don't even know why I posted this. This was actually, I think that was the revision one. Okay. Okay, I was actually meant to post something else. Let me check quickly what happened there. It's alright, it's not something new. I mean, I think it's revision. I posted the revision one. Oh no, I probably did that on purpose, I think. 1 minute, let me double check. I must have done that on purpose. 1 second. Reports. Basic Arabic sentences. I didn't post this. I did. That is weird. Oh, maybe I pressed the wrong one. This is grammar. Where did I post it again? I posted it under Daily Life Unit 4, end of unit, right? Grammar quiz. Ah, yeah, there we go. Yeah, I pressed the wrong one. There we go. So basically we have the English, obviously, صح? And then we have the Arabic examples, right? So that easy book is. Now what we see here is that the sentence is what is incomplete. The sentence is incomplete. So there's no khabar. Okay, what can we deduce from that? We can deduce from that everything's going to be definite. Okay, so the correct answer would be ذلك الكتاب السهل. that easy book is. That easy book is gonna come here. If there's gonna be a khabar, it's gonna come after this. Okay? Because this is an incomplete sentence. So whenever you come across an incomplete sentence, then know that there is no khabar. So there's no indefinite there. ذلك كتاب سهل is a complete sentence. ذلك الكتاب سهل, all these are complete sentences. This is incomplete. واضح? Alright, let's go to the next one. We have this dog is quenched. Okay, ريان means to be quenched, right? هذا كلب. Okay, ريان. That's not the correct answer. Why? Because this is a quenched dog. This is a khabar. كلب is a khabar here, so the is would be here. How do I know كلب is khabar? Because هذا is definite, كلب is indefinite, so this is the barrier. This is a quenched dog, so it's not that one. Okay, هذا الكلب ريان. Okay, this dog is quenched. That makes more sense. Okay, because the is in between dog and quenched, which means that ريان needs to be khabar and كلب needs to be ريان needs to be nakira or indefinite, and كلب needs to be معرفة. طيب. Okay, now this probably is one of the ones that most of you struggled on. Let me explain it. I added this, right, for our fourth option. Okay, so that I can introduce mudaf ilayhi as well. So this is Saeed's boy. Now here Saeed is a name. Saeed is a name, a person's name. Now in Arabic, Saeed is a person's name and it also means to be happy. Okay, but here we have a mudaf ilayhi construct. So we need this هذا, and then we need what? mudaf ilayhi. هذا ولد سعيد. هذا ولد سعيد. That's the correct answer. ولد سعيد مضاف إليه. ولد سعيد. واضح? That's what it's about. The مضاف إليه. هذا ولد سعيد. This is Saeed's boy. Whereas all these other sentences is not even talking about Saeed. It's talking about being happy. هذا ولد سعيد. This is a happy boy. هذا الولد السعيد. This happy boy. هذا الولد سعيد. This boy is happy. واضح? It needs some getting used to, but don't worry, it'll sink in. This is Salihah's daughter. So again, we want مضاف إليه. هذه بنت صالحة. هذه or ابنة صالحة. ابنة صالحة. Not ابنة صالحة. لا, ابنة صالحة. طيب, you might be like, oh Ustad, where's the kasrah? Well, there are some words that don't accept the kasrah, so it has a fatha. But you'll still know it's mudaf ilayh. Why? Because it's not ibnatun, it's ibnatu. There's no tanween. So whenever you see a word that doesn't have alif lam, and at the same time it doesn't have a tanween, then it's most likely, more than 90% is going to be mudaf. Okay? So we don't have a tanween because it is definite. Why is it definite? Because it's been ascribed to Salihah. Okay? And that's why you don't need an alif lam. Then we have that book is easy. That book is easy. That book is easy. So easy is going to be indefinite because it comes after is. So let's look for sahlun. As-sahlu, no. Sahlun, possibly correct. Sahlun, okay, also maybe correct. Sahlin, no, that's mudaf ilayh. Okay, it's between these two. Okay, how am I going to know? Well, it says that book is easy. Okay, that means that this is not indefinite. Book itself is definite. So ذلك الكتاب, not ذلك كتاب. If it was ذلك كتاب, it would have been that that is an easy book. An easy book. That is an easy book. Why? Because this now would be the khabar. Kitabun would be the khabar. Kitabun would be the predicate. The is would be here between ذلك and kitab. It would be between ذلك and kitab. It wouldn't be between kitab and sahal. See the difference? So that book is easy. That is an easy book. Two different sentences. واضح? Okay, so does that make slightly more sense? Huh? Look, it's challenging. I know it's challenging. I made it challenging on purpose. You know? Because that's how you're going to learn, يعني. Just got to look out for the weird names like Maryam or Hamza. Yeah, definitely. You need to know the difference between when a word is a proper noun, a name, or when it's just an adjective. You have to know the difference. Okay? Naam. If it's, yeah. Oh, you mean the names that don't take a kasrah, such as Maryam, yeah, naam. They would have a fatha. But like I said, what gives it away is that the mudaf doesn't have a tanween. The mudaf doesn't have an un. And it doesn't have an al. So when it doesn't have an al or a un, doesn't have an al and it doesn't have a tanween, then most likely it's going to be mudaf. طيب, inshallah, we'll go to the workshop. Barakallahu feekum. Hayyakum Allah. Any questions? The khabar is always after the definite to indefinite transition. Yes. For the most part. Every rule. Look, I'm going to teach you something today. Listen carefully, huh? Tell me if you understand this, right? Every rule has an exception. Even this rule. And who gets that? Every rule has an exception, including this rule. Who gets that? That's a little riddle. It's not even a riddle. It actually makes sense, right? Okay, tell me if you got it. Explain it. What's meant by that? Every rule has an exception, including this rule. Okay, circular. Not really. It makes sense. The last part, including this rule, makes a lot of sense. What's meant by that? Who knows? Let's see today who's awake. I know the engagement today was a little bit low, so let's see if I can get you lot to wake up. Come on, who can tell me? Every rule has an exception, including this rule. Every rule has an exception, and every exception has a rule. No. No. Every rule has an exception, including this rule. The exception to your rule is that sometimes there are rules with no exception. Na'am. Ahsanti. Yes. So there are rules that don't have an exception. There's an exception to the rule that every rule has an exception. For example, Tawheed. There's no exception to Tawheed. Allah is the only one that deserves to be worshipped. There's no exception to that rule. There's no exception to that rule. أبدا. فلا تدعوا مع الله أحدا. Do not call with Allah anyone. There's no exception to that rule. There is no one that can be worshipped besides Allah in any circumstance, even Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that rule is an exception to the rule we mentioned, which is that every rule has an exception. So there are certain rules that don't have an exception. Because if we make a blanket statement like every rule has an exception, I don't need to add the ending bit, which is including this rule actually. That should be understood, but I gave that just for the sake of helping you. But if I said, for example, every rule has an exception, and then somebody jumps up and says to me, Ustad, that's not correct. And I say to him, why is it not correct? And he says to me, because Tawheed has got no exception. Then I say to him, the rule still stands. Every rule is an exception, including this rule. So just keep that in mind. When you say, how do we get to this? When you say that the khabar is always after the definite to indefinite transition, the answer to that is yes. That is correct. But every rule has an exception. So you're going to find some exceptions here and there. which is not the time for it now, but that nevertheless should not take away from the rule that I've given you, which is the khabar starts where the indefinite starts. Okay? بارك الله فيكم. هذا والله أعلم وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد. I'll see you in the workshop.